Welcome to this overview presentation about the request for proposal for the Division of Behavioral Health and Recovery's Law Enforcement Partnership Initiatives project. In this presentation, we will discuss the timelines for the project and will provide an overview about the background of the project. This information is found on pages 1 and 3 of the RFP. We will identify the specific activities that are required of the Community Prevention and Wellness Initiative coalitions chosen to receive the funding. This information is found on pages 3 through 5 in the RFP. Then we will discuss the specific activities that are required of law enforcement partners in the initiative. This information is found on pages 5 and 6 of the RFP. Following that, we will talk about other activities that can be supported with these funds if the required project activities are completed and there's still money left. And then we will talk about fiscal considerations, and that information is on pages 6 and 7 of the RFP. And then finally, we will walk through the actual application materials for the RFP found on pages 9 through 13. There are several timelines you need to take note of with this project. First, questions about the request for proposal itself will be taken through Friday, September 20th, and answers to all questions that are received by that date will be disseminated out to our distribution list by Tuesday, September 24th. The notification of intent to apply is due on Friday, September 27th. The notifications of intent to apply need to be sent to the RFP coordinator, Sandra Elliott. The full application is due on Friday, October 4th. Applications will also be submitted to Sandra Elliott. It is important to note that all signatures and authorizations asked for in the application materials must be in place when you submit your application. Finally, it is our intent to be able to announce the funded communities by October 15, and we hope to be able to have contracts in place by November 1 to support implementation of this project. The project is scheduled to run from November 1st, 2013 to February 28th, 2014. There will be a comprehensive report on all project activities and a billing for all project costs due on March 31st, 2014. This project is based on the work of Harold Holder, PhD. Dr. Holder found that when the perception increased in communities that law enforcement was enforcing underage drinking laws, that youth reported an increased awareness of the risk of being caught, and that increased perception of risk led to reductions in underage drinking. The Division of Behavioral Health and Recovery funded an earlier round of law enforcement partnerships in the spring of 2013. We have incorporated several changes to the design of the project based on the experiences reported by those communities. One of the changes made in this round of law enforcement partnerships initiatives is that we have a more robust evaluation design. A brief overview of the Law Enforcement Partnerships Award. $6,500 per funded entity for enforcement-related alcohol prevention activities for a 4-month project period, November 13 through February of 14, up to 6 communities selected. The applicants are limited to Community Prevention and Wellness Initiative communities, and communities from all 3 cohorts are eligible to apply. Important dates, again, just to highlight, September 20th, questions about the RFP are due. September 27th, notification of the intent to apply is due. October 4th, applications are due. And because this is a competitive application process, all correspondence must be directed to Sandra Elliott, Contracts Manager. Coalition required activities. There are 5 categories of coalition required activities. Training, media, putting together a media and communications plan for the project, alcohol purchase surveys, implementation of a brief student survey, and reporting. We'll talk about these one at a time. Training, pages 3 and 4 in the RFP. There are 2 trainings that the coalition needs to participate in, and at least one person from each funded coalition needs to be participating in each of these trainings. They are webinars. Each of the webinars is about 60 minutes long, and both will take place the week of November 11th, 2013. We will get the final dates and times of the trainings out just as quickly as we can. The first training is Strategic Media Advocacy of Enforcement of Underage Drinking Laws. Again, that's a webinar. It will be held the week of November 11th, 2013. The second webinar is a guide to conducting alcohol purchase surveys. That will also be that same week, November 11th. You'll take the information from those 2 trainings and discuss how it is that you want to work with media outlets in your community to produce and then we'll produce a media and communications plan for the project. At a minimum, that plan needs to explain how you will get publicity out before and after each round of alcohol purchase surveys and alcohol compliance checks. Alcohol purchase surveys. There will be a requirement that there are 2 rounds of alcohol purchase surveys. Alcohol purchase surveys can be implemented by the coalition and coalition members. One of those rounds of alcohol purchase surveys will be between December 31st, 2013 and January 1st, 2014, or New Year's. Needs to be a minimum of 5 establishments. At least one establishment that is checked must sell spirit alcohol, and the surveys must be conducted after 9 p.m. The second round of alcohol purchase surveys will be on or around February 2nd, 2014. Student survey. This is a very brief survey. I'll talk about it more in depth in just a moment. It's featured on pages 4 and 5 in the RFP. There will be a baseline survey administered in December before students leave on winter break, and a follow-up survey in mid-February 2014 after the media releases associated with the second round of alcohol purchase surveys and compliance checks are out there and kind of circulating. So this is page 1 of the Anonymous Youth Survey. And the survey itself has 12 questions, and of those 12 questions, there are 6 that we really need to have folks get answers to, and so they're on kind of the front page of a front and back piece of paper. The back page has questions about actual consumption of substances and that sort of thing. But for instance, what we're going to ask is for survey respondents to talk about their perceptions about the accuracy of, for instance, this statement. Law enforcement in this community is effective when they respond to calls and requests about underage alcohol and drug use at parties or gatherings. And they'll be asked to whether they strongly agree, disagree, or strongly disagree with that statement. And we'll do a pre and post of that. And that should actually show some movement, we're hoping, through the implementation of this project. The other piece that coalitions will be required to do is to submit a fully completed report with the billing for the project on or before March 31st, 2014. Law enforcement required activities. Again, this starts with training. And training is a very important piece of this. Law enforcement needs to, we need to have some fairly in-depth training about alcohol compliance checks. And I'm going to take just a minute to talk about the difference between alcohol purchase surveys and alcohol compliance checks. Alcohol purchase surveys are when a very young-looking but legal person goes into a store and attempts to buy alcohol. What we're looking to do is to check on whether clerks will ask for identification. If they do, then the clerk in the store gets some kind of reward for that desired behavior, and if they don't, they basically get told about the importance of checking for identification. So that's kind of an alcohol purchase survey. There's no criminal action that is taken as a result of an alcohol purchase survey, so it can be conducted by the coalition and by coalition members. By contrast, alcohol compliance checks feature an underage person going in and attempting to buy alcohol. And if there is a sale made, that's actually a violation of obviously of state law, and there's an administrative citation that is written as a result of that, and that requires a law enforcement person to be involved. So we want the law enforcement folks in our funded communities to be pretty conversant about and well trained about compliance checks. So at least one person in each participating department needs to complete this online instruction called Conducting Compliance Check Operations. Persons attending the in-person compliance check training need to have completed the online version first. So that brings us to part 2 of the compliance check training, which is an actual in-person training. That training will be conducted on one of the afternoons during the week of November 18th, 2013. The training will be provided by Washington State Liquor Control Board, and that's important because as an administrative violation, alcohol compliance check and sales to minors reports actually are filed with the Liquor Control Board for enforcement. So we need to be very, very tight with their policies and procedures. So a minimum of one certified officer from each participating department must attend the in-person training. And just to emphasize, the person that attends the in-person training needs to have completed the online instruction as well. We also strongly encourage attendance by someone from your local prosecutor's office. There's a third set of training for law enforcement, and this will happen the day after the alcohol compliance check in-person training. So we'll have a training on alcohol source investigations. This is basically techniques for determining who actually provided alcohol for an underage drinking party, and controlled party dispersal. These are techniques to use to make sure that there's effective crowd control and safety for both the party goers and for the law enforcement and that sort of thing. So again, a minimum of one certified officer from each participating department must attend the training, and we do, again, strongly encourage attendance by someone from the local prosecutor's office. Alcohol compliance checks. The first round of alcohol compliance checks will be between January 3rd and 18th, 2014 in a minimum of 5 retail establishments, with at least one of those being a place that sells spirit alcohol. Like with the alcohol purchase surveys, we want the alcohol compliance checks conducted after 9 p.m. The second round of alcohol compliance checks will be held between January 31st and February 4th, 2014. Other activities. These are the required activities that I just went over. In the event that there is still time remaining in the project and there's still money remaining in the project, communities can use these funds to support other kinds of activities, such as cops and shops. That's where a law enforcement officer basically goes undercover and works like at a clerk in a store that has been frequented by minors trying to buy alcohol. Shoulder taps, which is where law enforcement basically kind of stakes out, the parking lots of stores where minors ask adults to buy them alcohol, or to purchase equipment that will aid underage drinking enforcement, such as portable breath testing devices. Fiscal information. Each of the funded communities will receive an award of $6,500. This amount is for the duration of the project. This is a cost reimbursement contract, and that means that there is no upfront payment. The costs have to be incurred by the agency getting the award, and then they basically bill for reimbursement of those expenses on an A-19 state voucher form. No expenses that occur after February 28th, 2014 will be eligible for reimbursement. So these project funds can support a number of different things. So travel associated with participating in required trainings for coalitions and for law enforcement, equipment, office, and communications, both, as long as it's related to actual implementation of the project. Supplies as needed, costs associated with implementing and evaluating the project activities. So necessary salaries like law enforcement to go to the trainings, law enforcement to implement the compliance checks. If you can figure out how to do it, you can use these funds to pay underage operatives to actually do the alcohol compliance checks, or perhaps the young-looking but legal person who's doing the alcohol purchase surveys. And also any administration funding that the contractor, it says county here, but it really should say contractor, chooses to collect. And there is a maximum of 8% at administrative fee that can be collected off of the $6,500. There's also a possibility of other expenses being covered that are not listed here, but those need to be approved in advance by the project manager. So application materials. First, on page 9 of the RFP is a notification of intent to apply template. This must be signed by an authorized representative of the fiscal agent, and this must be signed and returned on or before September 27th in order to be qualified to be considered for this funding. Then there's a narratives application section. This is on page 10 of the RFP. There are actually 7 scored elements in the RFP. Elements 1 through 5 actually require narrative responses. So on those, respond as thoroughly as you can and provide as much detail as possible. And emphasize where this project is consistent with your strategic plan. And if you don't have an approved strategic plan, discuss how this project is consistent with the direction that coalition members have said they want to take. There will be a limit of 12 pages for narrative responses. So these are the actual scoring elements. Describe how the enforcement strategies are consistent with your accepted community prevention and wellness initiative strategic plan. That's 20 points. Again, if you don't have a strategic plan in place, it's how is it consistent with what coalition members have talked about doing. Describe how your community will ensure that each of the required project activities will be delivered. Again, 20 points maximum. Describe your plan for increasing community awareness. 20 points maximum. Describe how your coalition will be kept apprised of the activities associated with the project, 10 points maximum. How will your community ensure that the experiences that you have are shared at the 2014 Washington Prevention Summit or its successor? That's a 10-point item. The memorandum of agreement to administer the survey is 20 points. And then we do have a bonus in here for new community prevention and wellness initiative communities to receive this funding. As I said, we have funded some folks in the past, and they're eligible to apply for this. But we would like to spread the money around, so we're actually putting in 10 points as a bonus for new communities that have not received this funding in the past 6 months. So altogether, there are 110 total points available for this request for proposal. What will happen from after your application is submitted is that Sandra Elliott, the RFP coordinator, will actually assemble the applications, and then we'll get them out to a screening committee, a screening and scoring committee. Those folks will actually review the applications and score them. A composite score will be developed, and then from that we'll be funding the top 6 communities that applied. The final piece to talk about is this brief student survey memorandum of agreement. This is a fairly detailed document. It talks about the responsibility of the school district personnel, of the coalition personnel, confidentiality of information, how the information will be used, and it needs to be signed by an authorized representative of the school district. So, for more information about the Law Enforcement Partnerships Initiative request for proposal, please contact Sandra Elliott, RFP Coordinator. Thank you for listening to this, and good luck with your applications.